to share in the special spirit of this place, rich in the energy of Mother Earth, our ancestors, and the love of all creation. I had the opportunity to ride my bike today, of course, through the Arboretum and past the Audubon Gathering place, and that's where that land acknowledgement came from. I was out looking for some inspiration, and although it was a little chilly out, I was actually quite warmed by a young family who were out being stewards for the land, helping to clean up the area, and I was reminded that small contributions by many make a big difference. And that's one of the things that we want to impress upon everybody tonight, that you can all make a difference, and I think that's one of the general themes of Earth Day. So we're very pleased to have had such a positive response for this event, and we know that you'll find it informative, make some connections, and find some inspiration yourself tonight. We hope everyone leaves with a great connection to our food and where it comes from, and recognizes that the policy decisions our leaders make, and equally important, the thrice daily ones that we make, have a significant impact on our planet and on each other. We're going to begin this Earth Day celebration with some poetry. Claudia Ferraro, Collingwood's Poet Laureate, will be presenting an original work for us. And our guest speaker to follow will be Gillian from the New Farm, who'll be discussing solutions that farmers are undertaking to address the climate crisis. We'll then proceed to our 3 breakout rooms where we'll have presentations and discussions on backyard gardening, pollinators, and composting. And we're going to wrap up by 8:30 with some closing remarks and a chance for everyone to get links to more info as needed. So there's lots that we have to cover, so it's time to dig in. I'm very pleased to introduce Claudia Ferraro, Collingwood's Poet Laureate. Claudia grew up in Collingwood and is completing her studies at Dalhousie University with an interest in eco-poetry as education and climate change. A perfect fit for us here tonight. One of her expressed aims is to open poetry's doors to the entire community, and we're very grateful to have her here to do that for us tonight. Claudia?
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so happy to be able to celebrate Earth Day with you all in this really meaningful way, so thank you so much. The poem that I've penned for this evening is titled Topsoil, and it goes like this. Each new day brings more leaving, brings less leaves on the trees, more blank sky and less bright things. Each morning brings more shortening, brings less room for the moon, and each afternoon more cause to be thirsty. The gone outnumbers the going, and now, honestly, can we just admit that this is scary? That all the numbers and dates and data are screaming at us loudly, and still it's frightening how few are listening. Can we admit that we are hanging on to the hands of a clock that pays us no mind, that won't stop spinning? Can we start from this real place of fear, just so we can get the emotion out of the way? Just so this fear can be felt enough to turn itself into something else, something like firmness or fortitude or faith, grounding emotions that remind us of our small role, our small place. Because from now on, we will forever feel late to this game of preservation, but perhaps it shouldn't be viewed as a race. I wonder if that's where we went wrong. The moment we turned to clocks instead of the sun. The moment we thought time was a thing to be won and decided all of our learning from the earth was done. When did we forget the wisdom of our mother and start searching for answers in the mouths of others? Did we forget to first sit with her and discuss what is a plan in which she can trust? It won't be one hell-bent on progress, but a plan crafted from the simple stuff. From bare feet that call the ground friend and not just support. From unpolished hands that cleanse themselves each day in the dirt. From hearts that hear the way soil can sing and dedicate time to witnessing this choir, to worshiping. It will be a plan led by people who view convenience as a cuss word, who know the time it takes to grow their own food but remain undeterred by any hunger, who see the value in the way things were before Canada was given a name, and perform small acts of love towards the place we brought so much shame. It is the first lesson we learn, how to give when we also take, and it is the first lesson we lose when our comforts are at stake. It's the reason we have given our whole earth a single day, as if to say during these 24 hours we will remember the price being paid. We will remember that soil is the earth's soul beating. And today, when we walk barefoot, it is two souls meeting. Today, when we garden, it is soul beneath our fingertips, the smell of soul in our nostrils, soul across our faces. What a privilege to be so carelessly covered in her soul. What a privilege it is to be under her mysterious control. What a wonder it is the way things grow without instruction, the way the earth's body is a self-sustaining production. Tomorrow and forever. Focus on the ways you can give while you gain. Focus on the plants you see and try to learn their names. Focus on the fact that 2062 is a year that will be. Focus on how you can change to greet this year, even if the changes are tiny. Because here they are, as they will always be, those absent within a war, living happily. And here we are, and here we will stay. Those who've become dirty in their attempts to repay, those down there, beneath the top soul, digging, dying for new day. Thank you so much.
That was fantastic, Claudia. I'm just going to leave it there for a minute, and I'm just going to let people reflect on that a little bit, and you can put your thoughts in the chat, but we'll just give it a couple of minutes. I think the general sentiment is that people would like the chance to see that and to read it again themselves. If there's some way that it will be made available to people, I think that would be wonderful.
Absolutely. I just posted in the chat, but I can send a written version to you and Catherine or whoever. We can put it on the mailing list or whatever works for everyone.
Yeah, I think that would be appreciated by everybody. I can just say that for those of you who haven't been to Harborview Arboretum to see the poetry, I'd encourage you to go and visit there. You can be inspired. You can find the intersection between art and our environment. I had the chance to visit it earlier today, and I realized that although we speak of the importance of science in providing explanations to the climate crisis, we need to find solutions and new ways of thinking outside our normal boundaries and constraints. And it's creativity that we need to get us where we need to go. So we really appreciate you sharing your creativity with us tonight, Claudia. We look forward to other opportunities to partner with our local arts community and help move our minds where they need to go. As mentioned, Catherine's going to have links in the chat to Claudia's Instagram page and also on the Town of Collingwood website. There's a web page there. You can go. There's lots of events that she's been putting on. And thanks again. That was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next I'd like to welcome Gillian Flies from the New Farm, and I'm going to keep the intro short as you'd rather hear her speak than me. Suffice it to say, though, that she and her husband Brent have created a special place in the escarpment above Dunedin, and their influence on food security and sustainable agriculture has been remarkable thus far. I sense that there's much more that they're going to accomplish. Gillian's the president of the Canadian Organic Growers. She's a board member of Farmers for Climate Solutions. She's a proponent for a hugely successful Farms for Change, a mother and a farmer who grows delicious and nutritious food. And thank you very much for that, Gillian. And we're very pleased to have her join us. So if you want to go ahead, Gillian.
Sure. Great. Well, wow, that's a hard act to follow. I'm really taken aback, Claudia. That was beautiful. Happy to join you today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Let's see. I've got a little presentation for you guys, and then I'll leave it open to questions. So I'm hoping to speak for about 10 minutes, and then we'll try and answer any questions that you might have. I'm going to go ahead and present. Okay. Okay, nothing like the rural internet here. So as Dave mentioned, happy Earth Day. I think I know a lot of you. I saw a lot of familiar names in the chat going by, but my husband, Brent Preston, and I are farmers, and we have the new farm, which is located just down 124 in Maple Valley, associated with Creamore. And we have, we're certified organic, and we grow heirloom vegetables, mostly salad mixes that you guys might have seen at Curry's Market if you're in and around Collingwood. Now, Brent and I are farmers, but we're not your traditional farmers. Before coming to farming, we were actually worked in political development and human rights for 12 years in Africa and Asia. And when we came home, we moved back to Canada, and we looked around at what we could do here. And at that time, Al Gore's movie had come out, An Inconvenient Truth. And we started to focus on global warming and some of the other big issues around human health and cancer and breakdown of rural communities. And we realized the way we grow our food really is at the crux of many of the biggest problems that we're facing today. So in wanting to kind of direct our activism here, when we got home, we came up and we bought this farm over here. And we decided we were going to build a small scale, sustainable organic farm and prove that it could work. So we built up our farm, and we grow, as I said, salad mixes and cucumbers. We work with a local distributor. And this is our farm today. So it's changed quite a bit from where we started. Now, when we were transitioning our farm to organic, and coming at this from why I'm telling you about the reason that the way that we came about farming as an act of, as an act of activism, really. We look around, and a lot of the farming you see is degenerative. Only about 3 or 4% of farming in Canada is actually organic farming. And this degenerative farming has led to about 1/3 of farmable land being lost to desertification over the past 40 years. And every year right now, we lose about 33 million acres of farmland to desertification. That means land that's literally turned to desert by tilling it and working it with chemicals and making it unfarmable. In fact, the UN in 2015 has come out and said that we actually have less than 60 harvests left if we continue to farm in this manner. Now, interestingly, when you think about climate change and you think about carbon, we start talking about fossil fuels and putting them back, reductions and driving electric cars. But the fact of the matter is, if we stopped 100% of our CO2 emissions today, it would take 200 years before we bring them back to the levels that we have in 1970. And I use this fact a lot because it talks about the fact that we have to do more than just stop what we're doing. We have to find a way to put this back into the ground. So agriculture can do that. There's a new term that you might be hearing that I wanted to talk about tonight, and it's called regenerative agriculture. And this is actually agriculture the way that it used to be practiced like many, many years ago. It's really only over the past 50 or 60 years that we've gotten away from this type of agriculture and caused all of this damage. So what regenerative agriculture is, there are 4 main principles to it. So the idea is that you're farming your soil. You are farming with using biology instead of chemistry. So the first thing is that the soil is a living organism. So you want to disturb it or till it and break it up as little as possible. I could go on for hours about the mycorrhizal fungi and everything that's going on under there that we're learning, and it's amazing. Keeping a living root at all times. Animal integration, also the importance of intensive grazing. You might hear about rotational grazing and intensive grazing, and also biodiversity. So I want to just demonstrate on a few slides here how we integrate these into our farm. So the first thing is we're certified organic. And for those of you who are sort of confused by this new term, you'll be hearing regenerative coming out because there's a lot of greenwashing going on around that term. Organic is the closest and most regenerative agriculture that we have right now. Many of these practices are already required by the organic standard. The second thing when we talk about a living cover is you always keep your ground covered with something. There's always something growing. And for us, we also have a closed circuit. So we haven't put an ounce or a gram of nitrogen fertilizer on our farm ever. Instead, we grow these green crops that you see here, And these are crops you grow. We don't harvest them. We work them back into the ground just to feed the soil. So this is, a lot of these are leguminous, and they actually grab atmospheric nitrogen and store it in the soil for us. So we have really high levels of fertility. We also plant a diversity of crops, which is really important. We've planted 12,000 trees on our farm and windbreaks. And recently we've also integrated animals, which has been absolute chaos. We don't own them ourselves, luckily. So we borrowed a neighbor's, we do some custom grazing for a neighbor. And now instead of tilling our cover crops back in, we actually have them grazed off by animals, and we put them throughout our whole farm. And these animals really help to build the organic matter and the carbon in our soil. So one of the most important things that we have actually learned is that tilling is really, really a bad practice when it comes to releasing carbon and the fertility of your soil. And we embarrassingly would often till up to 10 times a season. The way that we grow our salad mixes, we plant them, till, harvest it, over and over again, because it only takes 3 weeks to get a crop of lettuce. And we've completely moved away from that. We are now almost completely no-till. And instead we use tarps that we place over the soil. I'll show you a little picture here. So when we cut a bed of salad, like you'll see on the right, we would usually till that in, and instead we put a tarp over it to break it down. And after 2 weeks, we're able to plant right into it. And you can do this in a home garden too. I know you guys are talking about this tonight, but the interesting thing is you can really do this in your home garden as well. So we reduce the need to till here. And then if you can see here, here's an actual picture of, we did a farmer-led research trial on our farm. The difference between tilling and no tilling, everything else is exactly the same. So same lettuce, same day. And the stuff on the left is just where we had used a tarp instead of tilling. And on the right is where we actually tilled. And so you'll find these similar results in your home garden. And the best part that you will look, if you look closely, is that there are no weeds. So as an organic farmer, a lot of what we work on is weed pressure, and we're finding no weeds in our crops. Another benefit of not tilling is that we've been on our farm a whole month earlier, 2 years in a row, and then our neighbors, because of our ability to filtrate water. So a really interesting thing is that when you don't till and you use cover crops and you increase the organic matter in your soil, for every 1% you increase it, you're able to absorb 25,000 gallons more water per acre when a storm comes. So when all of these storms come, it immediately sponges into our ground, and the farmers around us that are tilling are having challenges with runoff and flooding and all kinds of things. We also did a part of our trial was testing the heat, because when people see these tarps over the soil, everybody's worried about us killing the life in it. And as were we, to be quite frank, we weren't quite sure exactly what was happening. And so we had these little, really, my husband, if any of you guys know Brent, would know how excited he was about this, because it's a little sensor that sends hourly information on temperatures to a cell phone, to a smartphone. And what we realized is that the soil that was tilled was 6 to 9 degrees warmer than it was under the tarps. So what that meant for us, and was happened over and over again, what that meant for us is that you could, when we had those hot, remember last summer and the summer before, those long periods of 30 degrees, we could still germinate arugula and baby spinach, which doesn't germinate well when it gets really hot, and nobody else could. So we actually had to close our farm 2 weeks early 2 years ago, because there was such a run on our arugula and spinach that we just sold out the whole farm, because other people had gaps in their production from not being able to germinate. And again, this is just us standing out in the garden here. That's the till and no till. And that's the difference you can make by not breaking up the mycorrhizal fungi in your soil. So the cool thing as we sit here on Earth Day is I want to say that for a long time I had sort of lost hope, and I don't know if many of you had felt this way about climate change and the future of our planet. And I feel like we are being handed an unbelievable opportunity here by the universe, because implementing practices that put carbon back into the soil for farmers around the world, increase profits, reduce weed pressure, increase yield, you don't have input costs. It's really amazing what is going on these farms. And this is catching on really quickly. Our farm is actually, there's a new certification you'll be hearing about, the Regenerative Organic certification. What this means is you have to be certified organic first. and they certify to a little bit higher level around social fairness, animal welfare, all kinds of looking at the holistic view of agriculture as part of the community as well. And I think Brent and I are going to be, New Farm's going to be the first certified rock farm in Canada, actually, vegetable farm, I should say, in Canada. So we're working toward that certification. Again, Brent and I are really both involved with these two farming organizations, COG, Canadian Organic Growers, and Ecological Farmers Association. Both of these groups have really excellent websites about this and do farmer training. COG also does some gardening courses. And together, COG and EFAO, along with 5 other organizations, a year and a half ago, founded a coalition of farming organizations. We started off with 4, and now we're 20 organizations representing 20,000 farmers across Canada, conventional, organic, biodynamic, you name it. And we've come together to advocate because we recognize that big change doesn't happen without policy change. Like seatbelts and smoking and all these other big things that we needed a huge shift. It doesn't happen unless, there's some real policy and support behind it. And so we have been advocating for government to invest in climate-friendly agricultural practices and support this as eco-services. When you compare Canada to other countries, Europe spends $51.70 per acre on climate-friendly agriculture. Even the United States under Donald Trump was spending $8.47, and Canada comes in at a staggering 70 cents per acre as their previous investment in agriculture. There was just no investment in it. And so we are now, as I mentioned, 20 organizations, and we are lobbying. We had put together a scientific task force of GHG modelers and environmental scientists and farmers, and it was an incredible team. And this is what we asked for, because it's important, because it just came out in the budget today. But the first thing is that nitrogen fertilizer is one of the biggest problems. And yes, organic farms only represent 3 to 4% of farms in Canada. And so there are a lot of farms using a lot of nitrogen, and with sick soil, it's every year increasing. So the first thing is nitrogen management plans and reductions. The second thing is to pay farmers on a per acre basis to adopt cover cropping, because that's going to put carbon in the soil really quickly. Normalizing rotational grazing. Again, we're asking for subsidies to farmers to rotational graze. We are also looking at setting up a reverse auction to protect wetlands. So what farmers can do is say how much they're willing to, what it will take to get the government to have them protect their wetlands. And then again, powering farms with clean energy. So together, through our calculations and a lot of hard work, we have come up with these 6 recommendations for an ask of $300 million in the federal budget 2021. And this will offset conservatively 10 million tons of carbon. And so that is over 15% of agricultural emissions within the next 2 years. And so the very exciting thing is that, government has a plan for 2030 that they just increased. But yesterday in the budget, or on the 19th on the budget, they actually put $200 million into our programs, into exactly these programs with our wording. And so now we're going to be working with them on implementation, and they put another $185 million into similar supporting programs that will be working with government to help them look for the most efficient implementation of that. So I think maybe that's almost 15 minutes. So I just wanted to say that I'm feeling hopeful. This is a really exciting win for farmers and for the climate. And the money has actually been released retroactive to the 19th of the day that it's announced. So it's actually real money that's going to go directly to farmers starting 2 days ago. So I'll leave it there. Maybe I'll unshare my screen. And then if anyone has any questions. Let's see here.
Okay. Hi, Gillian, I'm Mary Jo. So
Okay.
I have a question from Ruth.
Okay.
Are you having any influence on farmers around you?
Yeah. I mean, it's been incredible. And the first thing to note is that this is really, there's been in the past this tension between sort of organic and conventional farmers. And all that really goes out the window when you start talking about climate friendly agriculture, because we all have the same problems and we need to work together to fix the problem. And so the year before last, 2 years ago, actually, before COVID always throws us off by a year, but we had over 150 farmers through our farm looking at our research trials and doing training programs on our farm alone. And so we're having a lot of success because, you know, when you are having practices that make you more profitable and more climate resilient, there's a lot of farmers that want to know about that.
That's great.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the film Kiss the Ground, but there was a picture at the end with the farmer who was doing the regenerative farming and his neighbor who was not, looked like a dust bowl. I don't know. Did you see that picture? It was very stark, like the difference in, yeah.
I did see the picture, and an exciting thing. So the scientist in that from Rodale Institute, Dr. Chris Nichols, the woman you see towards the beginning, we've actually scooped her from the US. We've hired her as our new director of research and education for Canadian organic growers, and we've moved her to Alberta. So we're out there transitioning oat farms right now to regenerative organic. But we have seen the movie. Our farm was actually almost in it. We didn't make the cut, but it was close. We work really closely with those guys. Yeah.
It's funny because as you were talking, I was thinking you should have been in the film. Okay. So I have a question from Richard Cornell. Any special type of tarp or material for backyard gardens would you recommend?
Yeah, I would. So landscape fabric is the best that we've found, actually, because it allows for the water to go through. And then, you know, and it's really a lot easier to use, because when you use silage tarp or black plastic, the water pools on top and it's a total nightmare. And then you have plastic, and our tarps, they can last up to 10 years. The landscape fabric, we get an extra heavy one, the 4 gram. The one they sell at Hamilton Brothers is lighter. So I would recommend I would double that up. I would double up the stuff at Hamilton Brothers.
Okay.
I forget what level, I think it's a 3 gram or something, but black landscape fabric. Yeah.
Okay. So we have one question from Nick, which I've lost. And could you just come off mute and ask your question, please? Nick Clayton.
It was already answered, but I'd like to congratulate you on all this amazing work and the what's happened in the budget. It's amazing news. I've been following along, and I was very happy to hear that you got some funding, which is amazing. So congratulations.
Yeah, it's a huge win. We're really excited about it. It's a really great win for the sector. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have for questions. I'm going to turn it back over to Nick, Dave, for a second.
Great, thanks very much, Mary Jo. And Gillian, thank you so much. We know this is a super busy time of the year, and I think we're really excited to just get our feet wet with this and start to learn a little bit more about it. And I'm sure we're hearing more about regenerative farming and what you're doing up at the new farm. There's going to be links in the chat for Farmers for Climate Solutions, as well as the new farm. And if anybody is looking for a good book to read, read the new farm book, because it is very enlightening and it's hilarious as well. And I'd also suggest everyone consider supporting Farms for Change, because I think it's a really worthwhile endeavor that the new farm has taken on over the last decade almost. I think we all need to become more aware not only of what we eat and where it comes from, but also how it's grown, and support the efforts being made in the agricultural sector to not only continue to feed us all, but to be leaders in implementing climate solutions. So anyways, with that, that's great. I'm going to turn it over to Catherine, and we're going to get organized for the breakout sessions, and good luck with your spring there, Gillian.
Well, thanks so much. Have a great night, everybody.
Happy Earth Day. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Special thanks to Claudia. The poem was beautiful. Gillian for enlightening us about regenerative farming. And then Jeff, Mike, Mary Jo, Bianca, and Tori for sharing their insights and the like. And of course, Catherine, I think we got to give you thanks, Catherine, for organizing all this and being our behind the scenes leader and nourishing our climate action team and making these things happen. I have to say that Catherine does a lot more than people realize to keep this organization going, and is a big part of why it's been so successful. I'd like to encourage any of you who have an interest in food and in finding solutions to solving the climate crisis to consider joining our newly formed Food and Agriculture Group. If you're interested in this topic in particular, there's another meeting again May 3rd. This is a new group that we have going. There'll be information in the chat or on our website about that. And so think about taking part. There's some just discussions in terms of, you know, what initiatives we might be able to take on and get the community active and thinking about climate action on a personal level. And we're also always looking for other contributors to our other working groups. So if you have an interest in community engagement, communications, carbon conversations, energy, consumption and waste management, or transportation, then we'd love to hear from you too. Like again, as I said before, there's information in the chat, or you can check out our website. We have another meeting coming up on June 24th, which is going to be addressing divestment and reinvestment and the role of finance in finding solutions to the climate crisis. And we hope that everyone will join us then. The turnout this time was fantastic. I'd like to wish everyone a happy Earth Day. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up.